We are in our third night in taking principles from the ayah in Surah Al Imran, which talks about Quranic interpretation. And it's amazing how just one verse is packed with so many principles and how we can interpret the Quran. And so if we continue going down the verse, Allah subhanahu then says, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ, where Allah subhanahu introduces us to a new or another meaning for the word mutashabihat. If you remember, in the previous nights we mentioned that mutashabihat means it's a verse or a word that can have multiple meanings. Here Allah subhanahu introduces us to another definition of mutashabihat, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. The mutashabihat here, as Allah says, and none knows its explanation except Allah. Another definition of mutashabihat is if there's a word that only Allah knows its true description and exact nature. For example, there are rivers in paradise, but nobody knows the exact nature and description of those rivers. We don't know how it tastes, we don't know its currents or its flows. Or we can imagine all day and night, we will never be able to figure out what that river in paradise looks like. Another example, the wings of angels. We know what wings mean, just like as we know what rivers mean. We know what wings mean, what they are, but we cannot imagine or draw what the wings of Jibreel, alayhi salam, for example, looks like. We can't describe them. We don't know what shape they are. We can't describe the exact colors. We can't. Also is the case for the attributes of Allah subhanahu. For example, Allah says in the Quran, Wajhullah, Allah, the face of Allah. So we affirm that we know what, as we know what rivers are, we know what wings are, we know what a face is. And so, how is the face of Allah? We can't say. We can't describe the face of Allah. Laysa kamithlihi shay. There's nothing like Allah. Allah's face is unique. So all of His attributes, Allah's eyes, His hands, we affirm them, but we can't say how they are. That how is from the mutashabihat, that none has that knowledge except Allah subhanahu. As a man came to Al-Imam Malik and he asked him, how is Allah above His throne? Because al-istiwa, Allah being above His throne, is one of His characteristics, that He went above the throne. And so Al-Imam Malik then answered him, said, al-istiwa'u ma'lum wa kayfuhu majhul wal imanu bihi wajib wa su'alu anhu bid'ah. He said, Allah being above His throne is known. That's known from the Quran. Allah subhanahu said, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arsh istawa, that the most merciful is above His throne. So he said that Allah being above His throne is known. How is He above His throne? That's unknown. That's the mutashabih part. It's unknown. But believing in it is an obligation. And asking about its description or how Allah is above His throne, trying to get that kind of interpretation, it's a heresy. And so this doesn't mean that just because we don't know the exact true nature or description of these things that we start to deny them, because it doesn't make sense if someone says, well, if we don't know what the rivers look like, we're going to deny that the rivers exist in paradise. Or if we don't know and can't describe what the wings of angels look like, we're going to deny that angels have wings. And so some of the mistakes that have happened in the history of Islam, people started to deny the attributes of Allah. That Allah doesn't have a face, He doesn't have eyes, He doesn't have hands, because to them, they think that they're comparing it with creation, and the only reason why they're comparing it with creation is because they gave a description to it. So if we don't give it a description, and we say, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ, only Allah knows the true description, and then we won't have a problem. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues by saying that He's not asking us to believe in meaningless words. We can't say that the face of Allah has no meaning, that He has no face. So we affirm that He has a face. There's nothing like Him. He is unique. We can't compare Him with creation. We can't compare creation with Him, but we have to believe in it. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then continues down the verse and says, وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ يَقُولُونَ آمَنَّا بِهِ كُلُّ مِنْ عِنْدِ رَبِّنَا. And those who are rooted in knowledge. What is ar-rasikhun? Those who are rooted in knowledge, meaning that these are people whose knowledge is built on usul and qawa'id. Their knowledge is built on principles and maxims and guidelines. And Allah is explaining the principles of Quranic interpretation in this verse. That those who built their knowledge based on principles, they will say, we believe in it. And so Allah will not ask us to believe in words that don't have meaning. So yes, the rivers have a meaning. What and how, we don't know. The wings of angels have a meaning. How they are, we don't know. Allah's attributes have a true meaning. How they are, we don't know. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه